You know that takeaway you ordered last night? Well, getting it to your door involves this complex and often pretty invisible world of gig economy workers. But right now, that whole world is at the center of a major government crackdown, and it's revealing a system that's under some serious pressure. So, what is really going on behind the app on your phone?
Just listen to this. This is what one Depot employee told reporters, talking about the fear that's spreading among delivery riders as immigration raids are happening more and more. It's a quote that just perfectly captures the human side of this story, a whole workforce living right on the edge.
All right, so to really understand what's happening, we've got to start by looking at what the daily life of a delivery rider in the UK is actually like today.
According to one driver, this is the simple reality on the ground. The people who power this whole convenience economy are, overwhelmingly, migrants. And getting your head around that fact is absolutely key to understanding everything else that's going on.
And then you've got the money side of things. Some riders have said they're earning just £7.50 an hour after a full day's work. Let that sink in. That's almost £5 below the national minimum wage. It just paints a really stark picture of how financially unstable this job can be.
And the risks? Oh, they go way beyond just low pay. Because they're independent contractors, riders don't get sick pay or paid holidays. But it gets so much worse. They're constantly worried about being stopped by the police, and as some have reported, dealing with violent robberies where their mopeds are literally stolen at knife point. So how on earth did we get here? I mean, this incredibly precarious situation didn't just appear out of thin air. It's actually rooted in a major conflict deep inside UK law. It's really the central question, isn't it? And the answer, well, it lies in this gap. A gap between the way the gig economy is set up and the way UK immigration law actually works.
So it all comes down to this one key term, self-employed.
The delivery platforms have built their entire business model on classifying their riders not as employees, but as independent contractors. And that distinction is everything. And right here, you can see the fundamental clash. On one side, you've got immigration law. For things like student visas, it often strictly prohibits being self-employed. You can see it right there. But on the other side, you've got the entire gig economy model, which is built on that exact classification. This created a kind of gray area where right-to-work checks weren't always seen as necessary. And the results of that clash? A huge loophole in the UK's right-to-work scheme. This legal mismatch basically opened the door for people who didn't have the right to work in the UK to get onto these platforms, a lot of the time by renting accounts from riders who were here legally. So, faced with this growing problem, the government decided it was time to act. And they launched what they themselves called a nationwide blitz to close this loophole and start enforcing the rules. This quote from the government pretty much sums up their motivation. They're presenting this crackdown as a key part of a much bigger plan to, in their words, restore order to the immigration system and tackle illegal working head-on. And this timeline shows just how quickly everything escalated. It started with a really important Supreme Court ruling in late 2023, which confirmed that, yes, riders are self-employed. Just a few months after that, the government launched its big enforcement blitz. That led to a whole wave of arrests and finally the announcement of tough new laws designed to close that loophole for good. And the numbers really show the scale of this thing. In just 7 days of operations in November, officials carried out 165 visits, made 171 arrests, and immediately detained 60 people for removal from the UK. This wasn't a small operation. It was swift and it was significant. And to make sure companies actually comply, the penalties have been made severe. I mean, look at this number, £60,000. That's the new maximum fine a business can face for every single illegal worker they use. Yeah, the new laws are designed to put the responsibility squarely on the businesses. They're now facing mandatory right-to-work checks for every rider, those massive fines we just talked about, and even the possibility of being shut down completely or having their company directors face prison time. So, as you can imagine, this crackdown has kicked off a fierce debate about accountability. In a system this complicated, who is actually to blame? One argument you'll hear a lot is that the fault really lies with the individual, legitimate riders who are renting out their accounts. The thinking is, they're the ones breaking their contract, so if you hit them with heavy fines, the whole practice would just stop overnight. But the counter-argument is just as powerful. It says, hang on a minute. You can't just point to the self-employed contract and wash your hands of it when the company's designed the system.
Some even have a substitution clause, which actually allows a rider to get someone else to do their work. That feature is what makes account sharing even possible, putting the responsibility right back on the platforms.
So what do the companies themselves have to say? Well, the big platforms like Deliveroo argue that they've been proactive. They say they've already put checks in place voluntarily and that they actually welcome the government stepping in to create a level playing field, to make sure all companies are held to the same standard. So it leaves us with this really complex web of blame, doesn't it? Is it the desperate individual rider just trying to make a living? Is it the account holder renting out their login? Is it the multi-billion-pound company that created the platform in the first place? Or is it the government that allowed this legal gray area to exist for so long? And all of this, it all brings us right back to our own role in this system and what the real price is for the convenience of just tapping an app for our dinner. Here are the core tensions, all pulling in different directions. You've got us, the consumers, wanting our food cheap and fast. You've got the reality of a vulnerable workforce that's meeting that demand. You've got a legal system that's just struggling to keep up with technology. And now all of that is colliding with a government crackdown that has really serious consequences for thousands of people. It's really the question that sits behind every single tap of that app. As this whole story continues to unfold, it forces all of us to think about the hidden network of laws and loopholes and actual human lives that makes that simple transaction possible. What is the real cost of getting dinner delivered to our door?